What's up, guys? Gookill here. Um, I tweeted out a little while ago that I was going to post a video, a kind of video log about what I felt about the World of Warcraft subscriber loss. It's been a few weeks since then. I feel really guilty about not posting it, and I do have a pretty strong opinion about it. I'm a very passionate World of Warcraft fan. I can't really say as much of a player anymore because there's not a lot that I'm really doing in World of Warcraft anymore, but World of Warcraft, whether I'm playing it or not, it's always a game that I want to see succeed. I want to see do really well because I think it needs to be in contention if it's not already the definitive best game ever made. I think for a game that has existed for 10 years to have the following that it does, to have the passionate fan base about its lore, about its gameplay, about everything to do with it, I don't see how it can't be considered as the best game ever made, but it deserves the credibility of at least a top 5 or a top 10, whichever way you want to spin it. And it's disappointing as somebody who is a fan of the game, who follows the lore, who has been to BlizzCon the last 2 years and seen and talked to a lot of these developers that are very passionate and very energetic about changing the game to make it better for the general population. And then to see a result like that, losing in 1/4 the amount of subscribers that were lost in Cataclysm. So, and that's coming from someone who I probably enjoyed Cataclysm more than Wrath of the Lich King, and I was upset then to see people leaving the game in drones during that period of time. So, as far as what's going on now, I have a few opinions about it. I'm not maybe the most credible person, as I'm not deep into PvP, haven't done any arena, I haven't really done any raiding outside of just doing a few attempts at normal pugs. So I don't say this from the perspective of somebody who is heavily invested into Warlords of Draenor. Instead, I say as a person who's been a fan of the Warcraft franchise since I began playing it in Warcraft 2, and World of Warcraft I've been playing very, very steadily since Wrath of the Lich King. Dabbled in Vanilla, dabbled in Burning Crusade, but nothing really serious. So yeah, but been playing pretty heavily since Wrath, and really only took a really big pause in playing in mid Mists of Pandaria. And Warlords for me was a huge glimmer of hope, and like a lot of people I think who subscribed right around that time and brought the subscribers up to 10 million on that launch month. There's a lot of optimism going in, and I'll tell you a few reasons for me why I think that the game is seeing such a downward trend. I've never been a fan of Blizzard's mentality. I don't even think it's Blizzard's mentality, just the gaming industry's mentality either, of catering to instant gratification. I think that the more that Blizzard creates exclusive content in this game, and by that I mean, awesome looking armor sets, weapons, titles, things of that nature. As the more they keep doing that, the more they're going to create a player base that wants to continue to work to chase after those goals. And the last time I can really remember sitting in town or something like that and looking at a player and saying, holy crap, look at this guy's gear, look at his achievement points, look at all this other stuff, was probably mid Cataclysm, and that, not even mid, probably the end of tier 11, seeing people in full heroic tier 11 with a Sinestra title or with a the Farian title. That's the last time I can really say that, because after that particular tier, and I mean you can make an argument for Firelands too, but after those tiers, it really, really kind of crashed down into, I don't remember the last time I've really been super impressed by seeing somebody in town with a certain color armor or anything like that. So LFR has made a positive change, I think, to not reward tier gear and to reward a lesser visually impressive gear set. I think that even needs to go further. I personally would love to see the removal of normal mode. I think that if you just have LFR and then your normal difficulty, your standardized difficulty for flex, and then mythic, I think that'll create a lot more chase for people wanting to get into mythic difficulty and be able to take down bosses from that perspective. I think that having normal, heroic, and mythic is just a little bit overkill. It's a little bit too specific. And I think that's reflected by the fact that a lot of raiding guilds are not advertising for normal mode at all, and it's just advertising for heroic. So instead of wasting the time and resources to balance out a normal difficulty, just have your one flex difficulty, and then have your mythic difficulty. That's fine. I think another thing is the ignoring of 5-man content. I don't think Blizzard realized how much 5-man content kept people engaged into their game. I know in Wrath of Lich King and Cataclysm and Mists of Pandaria, I would run 5-mans to continue progressing my character. And while it was seen as a chore to continually do dailies, essentially, to do dungeons to get Valor gear or whatever it was, at least it offered a sense of going into those dungeons, either blasting through it or maybe doing achieve along the way. It invested people into those 5-mans. It has them looking back on them fondly. I think we can all agree that Cataclysm's 5-mans were a little bit too difficult. As much as I enjoy difficulty, it's a little bit too much for the looking for dungeon scene. But now with WoD, they really alienated that. They've really made it so that once you're done with dungeons, you're done with dungeons and you never go back. And because there isn't a daily system to also progress your character through, you're pretty much stuck with Apexis dailies and running your raids. And that really takes a lot of the investment out of dungeons, takes a lot of investment out of the world. You're not going to a zone to do a bunch of dailies. You're not going to a dungeon in order to run it to get gear in order to progress your character consistently. And I mean, that's the thing. That's what's going to keep people logging into the game, is having a reason to log in every single day to progress that character. And Warlords doesn't really offer that right now. I really PvP a lot, but PvPers really need something new. And I don't know what it is. I don't have the answer for that. But when you think about PvPers who have been stuck with random BGs, arena, and in Cataclysm recently, rated BGs, that's a lot of the same thing. And if you're a PvPer, I can't blame a PvPer for unsubscribing when they say, I'm just tired of doing the same thing over and over and over again. And I know people who have unsubscribed because they said, I can't arena for 2 years. I can't do it. It doesn't feel like a worthy investment of time and money. So I don't know if they can offer a different scene, if they can make tweaks to the arena rewards, maybe have a little bit more incentive tied in there. There's a lot of good videos out there that talk about potential reward systems from people who know PvP a little bit better than I do. But I think that's a big thing because I know I have no incentive to PvP whatsoever. Arena and BGs are just not something that I gravitate towards. But if I'd been doing them for 2 straight years, I would probably tire of them as well. And then the biggest problem for me, as for someone who's a fan of the franchise, is the lore perspective of it. And I know Blizzard has worked really, really, really hard to make Warlords of Draenor work. And I think anytime in this kind of universe, and by that I mean a high fantasy universe, where you're spinning this universe now into alternate universes, and you really get into kind of Star Trek-y stuff like that, it leaves a bitter taste in people's mouths. I get that this was supposed to be kind of a big 10th year anniversary nostalgia trip to see all these old familiar faces, these old warlords from Warcraft 1 and Warcraft 2. But at the end of the day, you want to feel invested into the world that you're playing. And I think that it's hard to sell people on caring about a universe that's an alternate universe, and that has been explained as essentially all these alternate universes are not tied to our true universe, and that they all peter out in their own way. They don't actually succeed as being universes. They eventually collapse on their own. So we're going to go do all this stuff in this universe from many, many years in the past, and essentially we're just going to come back to our world. We're going to be a little bit tougher and a little bit better, but it's going to be exactly the same place that it was when we left from Mists of Pandaria. And I think from a lore perspective, that doesn't really get you amped up or excited. I saw a lot of excitement towards Garrosh and the 3 expansions, more or less. You could even make an argument for 4 of build-up of that character to culminate in that fight. There's a culmination in the Deathwing fight. There's a culmination in the Lich King fight for all that time that it built up to it. And Warlords doesn't give me that feel. It doesn't give me that feel from a lore perspective. I'm invested into what's going on right now. It instead gives me a feeling of I want to know how this is going to affect what's coming next. So I hope that Blizzard really takes a stance towards having a, a lore that affects our universe more. We move away from things like Cowards of Time. I know the past, people are always going to be nostalgic about things that happened in the past, but for a game like Warcraft, it needs to progress and needs to keep moving forward. And I mean, I don't want to see Warcraft get to a point where we have an expansion of a redone Lich King, an expansion of a redone Illidan and Burning Legion, and we have expansion of a redone, reanimated Deathwing or Dragon Aspects or something like that. Progress the storyline, move on. There's so much lore that can be tapped into. I hope at BlizzCon this year we see it go more towards Ashara and N'Zoth, the last, old god, I believe, if the lore is correct. I hope we see that tie in more to, affecting the world that players have invested their 10 years into, as opposed to trying to stray them away from that and put them in places where the players don't really care necessarily. I know that you can tie in nostalgia, the way people feel about characters that they were introduced to a long time ago, and then also tie that in with a new way to progress the storyline of World of Warcraft. I mean, the only other thing that I have to say is that I think that the whole Alliance and Horde faction split is archaic, and I gotta say it, but I think that 10 years ago, maybe even Burning Crusade, Wrath of the Lich King, you could really make a case that, that's something that really drew players in. Now, I don't really think players care anymore. I don't think there is a huge presence that has people going, yeah, I picked the Horde, why would you pick Alliance? That makes no sense. Horde's way cooler. I think now it just comes down to just people want to play a race or a class that they like or look cool. And I was actually hoping the last two expansions with these all worldly threats in Deathwing, who's going to destroy Azeroth, and Garrosh, who's doing some really nasty stuff to the land itself and has both Alliance and Horde chasing after him. And I think this would be better for server community too. I really wanted to see the final union of just saying, you know what, all players across World of Warcraft should have the chance to raid with each other, should have the chance to PvP with each other, and bring the server communities a little bit closer together and just unify them. And I know that it's probably not going to happen, but it's really disappointing to see servers have 90% Horde, 10% Alliance, and the Alliance are just transferring off the server because they're just tired of being in a situation where they are going to lose all the time, and they're outpopulated and they're not afforded the same opportunities to group up. And I know Cross Realm has kind of alleviated that, but I think that that's unnecessary to ask your players to, hey, if you want to group up on a better server, you got to pay the money to transfer to that server. And I think if they made it so that you could group with Horde, you can group with Alliance, you turn PvP into more of a like a battle of honor, just a battle of pride. Just, hey, 20 people go into a battleground, it's 10 versus 10, you want to win just for the pride of you as a hero, instead of making it faction based. I think that would also add a lot to World of Warcraft, as now you could have, hey, friends come back to the game. Hey, it doesn't matter that you're Horde, man. We can group together on Alliance, Horde. It's all good. We can have guilds. We can do PvP. It's all the same thing. I think you would see a lot more community build up, which is something that's been a really big complaint that I've heard from, people who have left the game and people who are still playing the game. That server community is really a big challenge. And I think that would increase overall server populations. And I think that would overall just increase activity in the game, knowing that instead of dividing your server up, you've got an entire server of people you can play with, and you can also group up across servers with people from any faction. Now, to balance that, I do think they need to work on racials, but that is a really, really big hypothetical, and I don't ever see it happening, but I think it would actually be really, really healthy for World of Warcraft. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed some of my thoughts. That's just how I feel. I'm looking forward to patch 6.2. I'm looking forward to Time Walking Dungeons, Mythic Dungeons, 5-man content. What I talked about earlier is great. I think the setting for the next raid is going to be awesome. But again, I'm left with that feeling of what's this all going to result in, rather than feeling the culmination of, yeah, I killed Lich King, Deathwing, whatever it is, right? It's all about what's coming next. And I think if you have people more worried about what's coming next, why would I pay money now to experience what's happening now? I'd rather just sit on the sidelines and wait to see what happens as a result of this. So those are some of my thoughts, guys. Sorry for the late video. It's been a while since I posted a video. Sorry that this video log ended up rambling a bit long. If you listened to it, awesome. Thanks for sticking through it. If you listened to parts of it and you heard something that you liked, or anything you want to comment, feel free to leave comments on YouTube. You can hit me up on my Twitter. You can chat with me about it on Twitch anytime that I'm able to get a stream up. But thanks for your time, guys. And hey, all this is about is just creating a better experience for World of Warcraft. And I don't think WoW's a bad experience right now, but I think it can always improve and it can always be better. I know that there's people on Blizzard's end that want it to be better. I know as the players, I don't think I've ever seen fans of a company be more passionate towards their games that they play than Blizzard fans. So let's hope that these suggestions, they seep through, they get heard by somebody, it gets brought up in a meeting or something, and they start making strides towards it. So if you could spread this video, spread news, or you just want to spread your own opinions, that's awesome. I'd love to be able to post a video, answering any of your guys' questions on how I feel about something, or what I feel about your opinion. So again, thanks again, guys. I'll chat you later.